You guys remember last week, I was in Romans. We're talking. I started out with a dad joke. Remember that? It was not really good, as dad jokes go. I'm not going to do that actually today, but I want to read again just to go over Romans 1, 16 through 18, and then continue on from there. It says in Romans 1:16, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek." Meaning it's coming here in this way that Jesus came and right here and to reveal himself to these Jewish people, but it's not stopping here. It's going on and continuing to all those across the world. It's not just for this people, but it's for everyone. It says in verse 17, For in it the righteousness of God is revealed." In the gospel of Christ, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, "The just shall live by faith." For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. These words, ungodliness, meaning our offense against God. And when it says unrighteousness, meaning us then living in an unrighteous way toward men or here on earth. We're not living in that righteousness that God has given us, that allowed us to be in this place to live in this righteous way and living with Him, that we have turned away from that. So he's giving both these perspectives of we've done wrong against God, and in turn we've lived wrong against each other and not lived in a righteous manner, in a righteous way. So it says the wrath of God, and I talked a little bit about that last week, but we can get like a little like, oh my gosh, like God's wrath, or is this, and some even like, no, God's a angry, vengeful God, and that is not the case. And He loves us so much that He sent His Son to die on the cross for us, right? He gave everything for you and I, but He has created us for righteousness, and He created us in a way that was perfect, but sin came and it brought us into this place where we were separated from Him and not in that close nature that we were supposed to be. And so then all of a sudden the righteousness of God comes against the unrighteousness that we have as man. And it's directly opposed. And so now this righteous anger or righteous wrath is that coming against not you as a person, but the unrighteousness that we can live in, that we can be a part of. It says that the wrath of God is revealed from heaven. In verse 19, it says, because what may be known of God is manifest, or it's evident. What may be known of God is manifest or evident in them, for God has shown, God's made known to them. For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So he's saying, listen, I'm telling you these things and wanting to get you to understand that what God has done for us, and He has giving this gospel message, but he's not just sharing the good news. He's sharing why we need the good news. There's a reason that we need Christ to come for us. There's a purpose. If there wasn't something that kept us away from God, Christ would not have had to die on the cross for us. There's a reason that he did that. Do we understand that we need him and that there's something that can be in us that really our nature goes toward all the time? If we don't correct it and we don't come toward God, our nature goes toward sin. But he came. He says, listen, what may be known of God is evident or is manifest in us and around us. That God's, I don't know, as I was reading and studying this, I'm like, God, I just don't even know if I've understood and taken in even what this is saying as much as I should have, as much as I can. It says God has made known or shown us the invisible attributes, these things that are unseen, that cannot be seen. But he's actually made them known to us. He's brought them to us to be able to know and to be able to see. He's revealed them to us. Being understood by the things that are made. So as I was saying, have I understood this? Have I realized? Have I taken this in for what it is that by his creation and what he's made, what he's placed on earth, us especially, created in his image, created in his likeness, that he's put things about himself in us and made us different from everything else that he created. But even in just all the other things that he's created, and all these things that he's made himself known, things that shouldn't, or not shouldn't, but couldn't be seen in other ways. He's placed himself in creation. It says even his eternal or his everlasting power. His everlasting power is evident all around us. And his Godhead, meaning his divine nature. He's placed his divine nature in creation. Just as I was asking myself, I ask you, like, have we really taken that in? When we're going, and now I think the problem is we're usually driving, we're usually in a hurry, we're usually rushing to get somewhere, or in our house, watching TV on our phone. That's the problem. It's like, these things. Like, I don't really see much of God's divine nature by staring at a bunch of plastic and glass, and TVs and all this stuff. But when I go outside, when I step outside that door, and I see the grass, and I see the trees, and I see the birds 3 little birds on my doorstep, Like, they're creating this nest and this wild, big, unruly nest under my overhang of my porch so that it can have these little baby birds. And do I see that for what it is, that God has created all these things and put in it attributes, things, beauty of himself in it. And then we go out, and when we see that, when we are able to just take that in, taking in a picture of God's beauty and his love and his care, his attention to detail. We like to, elevate and just awe at these people that, like this guy, he somehow created this thing that is so intricate and it does this thing that they've never been able to do before, and look at him. But do we do that with God? Like that we are able to take and almost lift up or glorify a person, but when I go outside, am I taking in the things that he's created and said, how in the world, God, did you take all this that you've made this tree, that from a tiny little seed, everything that this tree is going to be is placed in that little seed. Isaiah 40. They don't have this one for the screen, but just take it in. Isaiah 40:26, it says, "Lift up your eyes on high and see who has created these things. Who brings out their host by number? He calls them all by name. By the greatness of his might and the strength of his power, not one is missing." Lift up your eyes. I think that's an encouragement, a statement, whatever you want to call it, a demand that we need placed on us to lift up our eyes. Lift up your eyes. It's like you're talking about somebody, man, they just got their head down, just going for, they're intensely trying to finish the task or do what they've, what they're wanting to do, just head down, do it. But I feel like we come to the place where we're just going through life head down, trying to get to the next day, trying to, just accomplish the task. And God says, lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes and look and see. And see who's created all these things, because he's evident in them. He brings them out. He reveals them. He's the one that's shown them to us. He calls them by name, and his power and his might is what's done it. He says, we're without excuse because he's been revealed to us. Because he's in everything that he's created. There's no excuse to not know pieces, bits, things about who he is because it's all around us. In verse 21, it says, because although they know God, or knew God, or without excuse, because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts. And their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools and changed, or this meaning exchanged, right? They didn't change his glory, but they exchanged it. They said, actually, I don't want his glory. I'm going to exchange it for something else. It says, and they changed the glory or exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man and birds and four-footed animals and creeping things. So although we knew God, although he's evident all around, although we have all this of who he is around us, his creation, and that we could see even evident in ourselves or those around us, that this can't happen on accident. It just doesn't. Things don't work that way, by the way. Any animal that's different is shunned or killed. Anything that veers off too far from the way that it's created doesn't end up making it through because it doesn't fit, because it doesn't work right. Things don't happen by accident. There's purpose in them. There's creation. There's God, and he is the one. He's the one that's done it. It says, although we knew him, we didn't give him the glory. But we decided to think that we're smart, think that we've got all this creativity, and yeah, God thinks he's creative and all these things that he's made. But look, I'm pretty creative too, and I'm gonna make this thing in the image of something actually that God has created, and I'm going to worship this, and this is going to be my God. It says they've become futile in their thoughts. And exchange the glory of the incorruptible or something that is everlasting. Where do we place our glory? There's glory in all that God has created. There's glory, his glory that is shown in each and every one of us. And what we can do is we give in our gratefulness or thankfulness, we give that glory a place in our lives. That we hold it, we see it. But what are we ascribing that glory to? Because we tend to ascribe that glory to ourselves in what we can do. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something of myself that, like, I don't know. I could say that I not trying to be prideful, but I feel that I'm really good at figuring things out pretty much no matter what it is. And it's gotten a little out of hand with one of my sons because he thinks he's like, if I just, can look at it for a second, I can do it, just no matter what. But anyway, I won't tell you which son that is, but anyway. But I can figure it out. I can do it. But there's a problem if I think that somehow it's because of me or something that I've done to establish that in my life or to bring that into my life. Or those that are the greatest of athletes or scientists or whatever, they're the best of the best. You know what? They put practice and effort into it. But the ability and how they were created and the reason that they can do that is because of God. So if you give that glory to yourself, if they're like, man, you know why? It's because I did this. I would say you only could practice because God created you in a way that you could be good at that. God created the brain that allowed you to study for however many years to become the scientist that you are. And some may not have the exact capacity that you have or the bent to study that particular thing, but God's given that to you. And that's the reason that you can do it. So no matter what, the glory should be given to Him. We just practice and do what we can to learn what God has created us to do or given us the ability to do. But do we know? Do we see Him? And just, seriously, he's talking about, he said they became futile in their thoughts and foolish in their hearts. They thought that they were wise. They thought that they knew. But they had a fatal flaw is that they exchanged the glory of the everlasting God for something that they've created. Knowledge in and of itself. Knowledge of the Bible in and of itself isn't what does it. I have a quote from Spurgeon that hits pretty hard. It says, knowledge is of no use if it does not lead to holy practice. They knew God, it says here in the scripture. They knew God. They knew God. It was no good to them to know God, for they glorified Him not as God. So my theological friend over there who knows so much that he can split hairs over doctrines, it does not matter what you think or what you know unless it leads you to glorify God and to be thankful. knowing doctrine, knowing the Word of God, being able to recite it or saying like, I know why they said this or the Hebrew or the Greek. It's good to know that, and it's good to dive in and learn and get deep, but just to know it isn't what does the work. It's ascribing the glory to the one who created it all and who inspired the words and who gave them to us. And we do that through gratitude and thankfulness. It says in verse 21, they didn't glorify him. It says, nor were thankful. There's something about being thankful and having gratitude in our lives. And I don't know if you knew this, but it actually changes things in our lives. It changes things in us. The attitude of gratitude that we have can change us physically. That it helps the things in the way that God's created to happen, that need to happen. I was just trying to look up, because I knew there was different studies, and this is just kind of like a synopsis, kind of a paragraph that the study at Harvard they did on gratitude or thankfulness. It says, how can the power of gratitude affect our lives? Recent research has pointed to gratitude's myriad of positive health effects, including greater emotional and social well-being, better sleep quality, lower depression risk, and favorable markers of cardiovascular health. Now, new data from the long-term nurses' health study shows that it may extend lives. See, it's funny, well, we're figuring this stuff out, right? These doctors, nurses, scientists, or whatever, they're doing these studies and like, hey, we're figuring out that gratitude and thankfulness actually, it can help us in our life and help us to be happy and to get over depression, and it can help our heart to run better, help our cardiovascular health, and it may even extend our lives. And God said, listen, I've created you for this, and I've told you and I've spoken to you. Be thankful. Have gratitude and be thankful. Because it's good. It's like medicine. That actually when we take it, we change from being, from complaining and being ungrateful about something, or our lives, that we change it to being grateful and thankful for whatever, even if it doesn't feel like, man, I don't know, I'm struggling to understand what to be thankful or grateful for. But you know what? I'm going to be thankful and grateful that God has kept me alive. I'm alive. I'm going to be grateful and thankful that I woke up and that I can do what I'm supposed to do today. I mean, just start with something small, but change that actually it changes something in us, and our brain says, oh, hey, let's send out the good stuff. Let's start putting out the, instead of the oxidative stress that I'm creating. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritties, but, through stress, through bad attitudes and all these things, living in the way that we shouldn't, there's this stress that it's not just like, hey man, I feel stressed. Your body actually does something that locks up the cells so that you don't have the energy and the chemicals that your brain is supposed to be putting out to help you do what you're supposed to do, that it doesn't do that because it's locking everything up. But then all of a sudden, whenever you become grateful and thankful and change that attitude, it's just, your brain's like, oh, wait, maybe we should just do something different, Let's do it differently. Let's send out the good stuff, and let's start changing, and it helps your body to heal those things that have been locked up. Tell me God's not revealed in that. You want to see his glory and him. In creation, let me tell you, he's revealed. He's revealed in his word. But let me tell you how our body works. It matches up and aligns with how he's asked us to live. So it's revealed in his word, and then it's revealed in us. Because he's created us that way and then told us, this is what you should do. This is how you should live. You should forgive. Hey, don't hold a grudge because don't be ungrateful. Be grateful. Don't hold something against that person, but forgive them. And they're like, man, okay, well, God just told me to do that. No, he's telling you, you will live a healthier life. You will live a better life because the way that I've created you to live is that way. Don't be a fool. The scripture says they thought they were wise, but they actually became fools. I don't want to do that. I don't want to profess to be wise and just be a fool. I want to place that glory where it's supposed to go, with God, seeing his glory. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, it says, rejoice always, pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks. I don't know if you're like me. When you read stuff and you're like, wait a second. It says in everything. Does it mean everything? No, it does. That's what that word means. Rejoice always. When things are going good, but not when things are going bad. No, rejoice always. Pray. Have that little time in the morning pray without ceasing. We put things in these boxes, and I think we got to be careful because, I see in the Bible where the Pharisees and Sadducees, and they put it's like, well, this is what it says. This is how you do it. This is, you got to wash your hands this many times. You got to do this. You're like, well, I got my prayer time, and this is how you pray. I got to have that, or I have to pray this way. When it says pray without ceasing, it means that you can pray at your home as loud as you want and crying out to God, and you can pray in your car, and you can pray at work whenever you're there with 100 people around you, but you may look a little different than when you're at your house. But pray without ceasing. Have him on your mind and be grateful and thankful, asking him to move in you. You can do that all day long. And give thanks when? In everything. No matter what's going on in your life. Whether it's good or bad. How do you give thanks when things are bad? Again, it may be a little harder to do. But I can tell you, because I have actually done it few times, in times that it felt hard to find something to give thanks for. But you can't. We ask our kids sometimes, so they like come in and, it's a little less. 2 of them are gone. The 2 other ones are hardly ever home. But anyway, they come in and they're like, oh, this happened and that happened. And, I can't believe this and what this person did. And we're like, did anything good happen today? Is there something that you can be grateful for? Can you be thankful for something? It's funny because sometimes it's like, it takes a little bit. But there is something. There's always something. But can we find it? Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ for you. It's the will of God. It's what He wants you to do. It's the basis of everything else. More than worrying about what His will is for 10 years from now, or that ultimate goal of ministry or what He wants you to do, the will of God, it starts with this. You want to figure out that other thing? Start here. Rejoicing in everything, praying without ceasing, and in everything giving thanks. In verse 19, do not quench the spirit, do not despise prophecies, test all things, hold fast what is good, and abstain from every evil. Hold fast, hold tight to what is good, and abstain from things that aren't of God. Would you stand with me?